functionality that should be implemented on our application. It is nothing but a functionality that should be implemented on your application. Okay. Product is giving us a requirement or feature, or it is nothing but a functionality that is whatever functionality, requirement, feature, or functionality that is given in simple English. Whatever they will write some requirement in simple English so everybody can understand it. So by reading that requirement, right, a dev and as well as QA will understand what developer needs to develop as part of that particular requirement and QA needs to test as part of that particular requirement. Now, it means if I need to make it more transparent, right, product is going to give that requirement in simple English. And by reading that requirement, right, dev is going to write some code, and as well as a tester, right, if I need to perform that using an automation testing, right, again, we also write some code, which is nothing but what we are actually calling it as a script. Which is nothing but what we are actually calling it as a script. So if you see here, right, in this, right, for example, let us say, see, normally, right, for any application, right, the input and output, okay, the input and output is always a product. Okay, the input and output is always the product. What it means here means, I'll tell you. Input means who are actually, means input means which requirement should be developed. Which requirements should be developed. Okay, should be developed. Okay, and which requirement should be developed on our application. Okay, on our application will be given by product. Okay, and once that requirement has been given, right, that will be developed by developer. Okay, and then it will be integrated. Okay, then it will be integrated by the developer. Okay, why I'm saying integrated here means, if, for example, if I say developer, right, again, he is responsible for developing UI, API, and as well as DB for it. And integrating complete thing as a single application by the developer. And then it is tested by the QA, where they are going to test it in a manual approach and as well as using automation approach. Okay, and once that has been tested, right, again, it will be validated output. Means the output that what we are getting it from a dev and as well as a QA will be also validated by product. Okay, so for any application development, right, if you see, right, the input requirements are given by the product and the output. It means whatever that dev and as well as QA has developed and tested, right, that will be also validated by the product. So when a dev and as well as a QA, or else let us say what QA has tested as part of that particular application functionality, right? So if a QA has written some automation script, it cannot be understood by the product because they are not technical, right? They actually give requirement in a simple English. Okay, and that requirement will be developed by developer and tested by QA. Okay, and tested by QA. Okay, and tested by QA. And then, right, again, it is validated by product. So, whenever QA is writing their automation cases, right, whenever QA is writing their automation scripts, right, if they write it using pure code, right, then product cannot understand it. Product cannot understand it, what has been tested as part of that particular requirement. So to close that particular gap, right, what we do here is we actually use BDD, behavioral driven, or what we actually call it as feature driven, or what we actually call it as acceptance test driven frameworks in automation testing. Okay, so if I'm going to use this framework, right, in that, right, one of the framework is nothing but CucumberJS. It means where if I'm using any JS based, if I'm going to use any JS based, means JavaScript based automation tool like Playwright, we actually use we actually use Cucumber JS. We actually use Cucumber JS to design an behavioral driven, or what we actually call it as feature driven, or what we actually call it as acceptance test driven framework. Okay, what we actually call it as acceptance test driven framework. Okay. I think so. These sessions are getting recorded. Okay. Someone asking, right? These sessions are getting recorded. Yes. Okay. So if you see here, right? Now the next. Okay. Now the next question here is. Okay. Now the next. Now if I need to use this cucumber. Okay. If I need to use this, means it means say simply. If I need to make it simple, right? You can simply say business people or product owners who actually describes these features or requirements or functionalities in simple English, right? Okay. That to avoid what means when it has been developed and when it has been tested by QA. So your business product should also validate that what a tester has tested as part of testing. And if I want to ensure that everybody is speaking in same language, okay, without writing a code, and I want to increase the transparency between product and as well as QA to validate whether that requirement has been completely tested and correctly tested. Right? We actually use this BDD or feature driven development or acceptance test driven framework. Okay, now the first step here is first we need to understand how do we do this setup. Okay, how do we do this particular setup? Okay. So when you go through blogs and tutorials, right, they will tell you a step-by-step way to do this particular setup. But I'll tell you the simplest way that how the simple procedure that how you can do this particular setup if you want to use Cucumber JS with the Playwright. Okay. So if I want to do that right, now what I need to do here is first, if I need to do this particular setup right, we need to have certain prerequisites. Okay, we need to have certain prerequisites. So what are those prerequisites? Okay, what are those prerequisites? Okay, it is very simple. First step is I need to have NodeJS. Second step is I need to check whether I am getting NPM. Third step is I need to check whether I got NPX. And fourth step is I need to make sure that I'm having a VS Code editor. And then right on that editor, right, I need to make sure that I have created a project with the Playwright. Okay, with the Playwright. So first step, right, see, since there are few people who are layman to this Playwright JavaScript, right, just I need 2 minutes. See, normally, right, we say JavaScript. Okay, we say JavaScript, right? JavaScript is different from your Java language, what we actually use as part of our, coding. Okay, JavaScript and Java language are both are different. That you need to remember in your mind. Second thing, why JavaScript? Okay, JavaScript was specially developed for browser development. Okay, so whenever I write any code in JavaScript, right, it means the file that what I am creating will have .js extension. .js extension. And if I want to run that particular JavaScript, right, we can directly run it on your browser. Okay, you can run it on your browser console. That is how the developers uses it. But for example, I want to write JavaScript and I want to run that particular JavaScript code on my machine, not on my browser. Then I need Node.js. And again, right, as I said, you right, it is very important that JavaScript, right, and again, under to JavaScript, we have multiple flavors, like we have Node.js, we have EXT.js, we have AngularJS, we have EXT.js, AngularJS, we have React.js. Okay, we have multiple flavors. But for example, right, it is not required. Means these all are the technologies that are used in your front-end UI development. Okay, but normally, right, if I say JS, right, if I want to run if I want to run the JS in my local machine, right, I need Node.js. Now, what is this node? This node is nothing but an engine to run your JavaScript, to run your JavaScript. So this is very, very important. So for that, right, if whatever the code that I'm running as part of JavaScript, right, if I want to run it on my machine, right, my first prerequisite is Node.js. So how do we install Node.js? See, just you need to, just what you need to do here is, okay, just what you need to do here is, you need to open the browser, just open Google Chrome and type here node download. Okay, so automatically you will get a Node.js download. If you click on that particular link, right, if you scroll down based upon your operating system, right, you can download your node. If you download it, right, you will get a .exe or .msc file. Now, if you double click on that particular file and click on next, 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 don't change any options. If you download this, right, see, for example, if I'm downloading this, it will be downloaded. Now, once it got downloaded, right, just open that particular folder where it got downloaded. Or else double click on it. You will automatically see an pop-up and you will ask and it will show you that how you are able to install it. So double click on it. So it will actually give you a pop-up. You need to click on yes and next, next, next install. And if in between, right, if it is asking you for any I accept license, right, click on true and go ahead. So that will install Node.js on your machine. So that will actually install Node.js on your machine. See, for example, if you go to this Node.js, right, I got this file. Double click on it. So it will give you a pop-up. Okay, and click on, since I already have this Node.js installed, right, it is showing this message. But in your case, right, you will get next, 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 I hereby accept, click on next, click on next, click on next, and then you can click on next and finally you will get install button. If you click on this install button, right, it will complete your installation and then it will show you that node is successfully installed on your machine. Now, whenever you're installing a node, right, the most important thing that you need to understand here is, whenever you're installing node, you'll automatically get this npm and as well as npx. Okay, what is npm? So it is very simple. It is nothing but node package manager. It means, for example, if I want to download any libraries of Node.js, I need to use npm. 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 And npx is nothing but which is used for execution. I'll tell you, we have a different perspective for npx, but as of now, right, if I need to run, right, we actually use npx. Okay, and then right, VS Code editor means because I need editor because I need to write code and see the see if I say editor, right, I can simply say it is an ID means integrated development environment. So it helps the user to interact with the node. Okay, here, right, since we are actually installing Node.js, right, it helps us to interact with the node. Okay. So first I have installed node, right? So first, right, the first step here is now you need to check. Now you need to check whether you have installed a node and you got npm and you got npx or not. And the npx got installed on your machine or not. So if I need to check that, right, you can check that from your command line interface. Command line interface means just to type cmd and open your command prompt. Just to open cmd and open your command prompt. Now here, right, I need to simply type node hyphen version. So it will give you the current node version that is installed on your machine. And then, right, I need to type npm hyphen version. It will give you the node package manager version. Now third one is I need to write npx hyphen version. It will give you the npx version that is getting installed. See, it is not required that we need to again separately install npm and npx. So whenever you're installing this node, right, it will automatically install npm and as well as npx. Okay, now the next criteria is, now once you have done with this, right, now the next criteria is, okay, now the next criteria is why we need to have this node npm and npx, right? That you will understand. What I'll tell you in another 10 minutes that why we need this. Now, next anything is we need VS Code editor. So what you need to do, you need to go to your Google Chrome and you need to type here VS Code download. VS Code download. So if you go to VS Code download, you'll get a link, and if you click on that link, right, based upon your operating system, if it is Windows, you need to download this. If it is Ubuntu, you need to download this. If it is Red Hat or Fedora, you need to download this, and if it is Mac, then you need to download this. Based upon your operating system, you will click on it, so it will actually download a .exe file again. Okay, and once you get this particular file, right, go to that particular folder and double click on it, and you will get a pop-up, yes, and then install. Okay, and yeah, I'll tell you what is the difference between scripting language and programming language. I'll tell you. First let me just get quickly set up with the setup. Okay, then we will see what it is. Okay, so if you see here, right? Now what we are going to do here is, now once this got downloaded, right? I need to double click onto this particular file. Then you'll get a pop-up. You need to click on yes, and you need to click on next, install. Don't change any options. That will actually install VS Code on your machine. That will actually install VS Code on your machine. Now here, right, as part of your setup, I have installed Node, I have installed npm, and I have installed npx, and I have also installed VS Code editor. Now I need to do setup to use CucumberJS. I need to use setup to use CucumberJS. Okay, on my mission. Okay, if I need to use CucumberJS, right, first step here is I need to open VS Code. Okay, and I need to create a project. Okay, I need to follow a few steps. What is my first step is I need to open VS Code. I need to create a project, and then I need to install Playwright. And whenever you're installing your Playwright, right, Playwright is nothing but a node project. Node project. It means this Playwright library was developed using NodeJS. So whenever you are installing Playwright means you are creating that particular project as a node project. So first steps are nothing but these are your first steps. So what I need to do, I need to go to VS Code, then you'll get VS Code and you need to click on VS Code. It actually opens VS Code on your machine. It actually opens VS Code on your machine. Okay, it is actually opening VS Code on your machine. So this is how that you'll get a VS Code. See, I already have multiple projects previously I have created, so I am getting the existing project. But in your case, right, whatever the VS Code that has been opened, right, here you will get a welcome screen. Just close that welcome. And then go to file and click on open folder. Then it will redirect to some location in your machine. Then what you write here is you simply write Cucumber practice 99. You create one folder here by clicking on new folder. Select that particular folder and try to open that particular folder in your VS Code. This is nothing but how you are going to create a project and you are trying to access that particular project in your VS Code. It is like you need to create one folder in your local machine, and that folder you should open that in your VS Code. And that folder you should open that in your VS Code. Now once you got this particular Cucumber VS Code, right? Now what you need to do here is in this folder, right, I need to install Playwright. In this folder, right, since I'm going to write my code in using Playwright, right? See, anyway, in this session, right, I'm not going to show you any code that what I write as part of Playwright. But to understand, right, whether how I am going to use it, right, I'll show you a small example. For that, right, I am just installing Playwright. So whenever you want to install Playwright, right, see, normally, right, if you go to extensions, here you will have an option called Playwright. You need to search for Playwright. Playwright, Playwright. Then you'll get a Playwright test for VS Code. Actually, it is installed on my machine. In your case, right, it will be in uninstalled position. So you will get install button here. If you click on install, that will be installed to your VS Code. And then once you get this particular installation, right, again go back to your Explorer. Now go back to the top where you have search, right, at the top. If you click on to that particular search, you will have show run commands. And here, right, you need to click on test install Playwright. Okay, and you need to click on this, all the options, and click on OK. So it is not required to run any commands from your terminal. It will automatically install complete Playwright package under to this particular folder. And this folder will be created as a node project. Now this folder is nothing but a node project where I have installed Playwright to write automation scripts. To write automation scripts. Okay, to write automation scripts. Okay, so this is what that you need to write. So this is what that you need to write. Okay, so if you see here, right? Okay, so if you see here, right, it has automatically downloaded all the required folders and as well as files, which makes this particular folder as Playwright project. So this is the second prerequisite. As I said, you right, means whenever you are going to install a node project, right, I need to install Playwright. So I have created a project and I have installed Playwright into it. Now this project has become as node project. So now very simple. Many people ask you how to check whether it is a node project or not. It is very simple. So normally whenever you are going to create any Java project, right, how you will have pom.xml file, right? In the same way, under to node project, right? You will see under to node project, right? PROJST project, right? You will see a file with name called package.json. It means if you see a file with name called package.json means that particular project is a node project. If you see, right, I'm able to see package.json here. It is like pom.xml file in your Maven project. So if you see this particular file, right, it represents that this particular project is a node project. This particular project is a node project. Now, once this has been done, right, now we are slowly getting into CucumberJS. Now, first step, right, if I need to use CucumberJS, okay, if I need to use CucumberJS, I need to install Cucumber library. I need to install CucumberJS library. Okay, and here, right, this library is also called as it is also called as a package. Okay, or else some people call it as we need to install CucumberJS module. Okay, people call this with a different name. Some people say we need to install CucumberJS package, we need to install CucumberJS library, or we need to install CucumberJS module. All these are same. Okay, all these are same. So people call that with different in different perspectives. But even if I say I want to install CucumberJS library, I want to install CucumberJS module, or if people say I want to install CucumberJS package, right? All these are same. Now, if I want to install CucumberJS, right? It's very simple. Just go to your Google Chrome, and it is not required to remember. Just to type CucumberJS Git. It will automatically give you a site with a name called CucumberJS GitHub. So if you click on this particular link, right, you will be redirecting to this particular screen. And here, right, if you see here, right, they will show you if I need to install Cucumber, I need to run this particular command. As I said you, right, whenever I want to install any library, I need to type npm. npm means node package manager, and install means it is installing, and I want to install this particular library. Copy this, go back to your terminal, go back to your VS Code, and here right under to this particular project, run this particular command. So now when you run this particular command, right, so just open your package.json, and if you see here, right, just open your package.json, and if you see here, right, see as of now I have only these two libraries. One is Playwright and second one is a types node, which helps us to support type scripting as well. Okay, now you have only these two div dependencies. But once that Cucumber has been installed, right, you will see a dependency that got added to this particular package.json. As I said, right, it is similar to your Maven pom.xml file. Okay, it is similar to same as your Maven pom.xml file. So here, right, what we are going to do here is we are going to actually install CucumberJS. So if I need to install CucumberJS, right, you can directly go to Google Chrome and you can type CucumberJS Git, then you'll get a Git link. And if you scroll down, right, you can see that CucumberJS, if I need to install CucumberJS, right, I need to write npm install CucumberJS. And as I said, right, this npm is used to install, right? So if you see here, right now, let us say I want to uninstall it. You can simply type here and you can type uninstall. So this npm is like through which you can install and uninstall packages. See, it has removed. And again, if I want to install, again I need to write install. Okay, again I need to write install, so that automatically that plugin or what or else that library or that package or module will be downloaded and it will be added to your package.json. That will be added to your package.json. See, it is showing that Cucumber has been automatically added to your package.json. Okay, so if you see, right, this is the setup. This is the setup. I mean, if I need to use CucumberJS in my local machine, right, this is the setup. So first, right, you need to have node, and then you need to have npm, and then you need to have npx. You should make sure that all these three are available. And then you need to download VS Code editor, and then you need to download Cucumber JS library, Cucumber JS, library. But after creating a VS Code, right, just I need to create a project, and then inside to that particular project, right, I need to install Playwright. So this will create a node Playwright project. Okay, this is going to create a node project. So this is your setup. So if I need to practice those Cucumber JS features, right? First thing here is you need to have this complete set on your mission. You need to have complete set on your mission. So you need to have node, you need to have npm, you need to have npx. Npx is used for execution. I'll tell you when we are executing something, right? I'll tell you that how we are going to use npx. VS Code is nothing but the editor. See, you can use any editors that are supported with JavaScript, but I suggest VS Code because VS Code has some plugins and extensions for your Playwright project or Cucumber JS project through which you can quickly generate your scripts. And VS Code is the lightweight editor which is majorly used by many of your organizations. So my suggestion is always to use VS Code when you're writing your Playwright with CucumberJS script. CucumberJS script. Okay, this is the setup. This is your first part. Now, second part. When I'm going for Cucumber, when I'm going to use CucumberJS, right, under to CucumberJS, right, you need to majorly understand two components. Okay, two components. Okay, two components. Okay, normally, right, two components. It means I'll tell you we need to understand majorly. I can simply say some components. Now, in this, right, the first component is nothing but what we actually call it as features. And the second component is nothing but what we actually call it as step definitions. Okay, and step definitions. And the third component is nothing but which acts as a test runner, which is nothing but cucumber.json. Cucumber.json. Okay, now the next component is nothing but what we are actually calling it as cucumber.json file. Cucumber dot the JS file, or what we actually call it as JSON file, where we are going to maintain our configurations. Where we are going to maintain our configurations. So Cucumber, okay, so Cucumber dot JSON, where we maintain our configurations. Where we actually maintain our configurations. So here, right, again, it again depends. You can create it as a JSON file, or else you can create it as a CucumberJS, where we are actually going to maintain the configurations, which will act as a test runner file for your Cucumber test cases. Okay, anyway, this is optional. It is not required that you need to create it. Without creating it as well, I can still use it, but I'll show you both the perspectives. So majorly, right, under to Cucumber, right, we will see these three components. One is features, second one is step definitions. Now, first step here is you need to understand what do you mean by features. See, if I need to make it simple, right, I can simply say it is nothing but a collection of features. Or else you can simply say it is nothing but a collection of requirements. Okay, or else you can simply say it is nothing but a collection of requirements. Or else you can simply say it is nothing but a collection of functionalities. Anything, right? See, for example, right, I need to test my application functionalities. I need to list those functionalities and what it should be tested as part of that particular functionalities. Okay, so what we are going to test as part of that particular functionalities, right? It means, see, it is very simple here. So it means here, right, you need to understand it is very, very important here. So here, right, you need to understand what we are going to test, which functionality. So that will be created with the name called dot features. Okay, that will be created with the name called dot features. Okay, that will be created with name called dot feature. Okay, and then right in this particular feature, right, we actually write multiple test conditions to test that particular feature. Okay, those test conditions are written as scenarios. So scenario, here scenario means it represents a test case. It represents a test case. So very simple, the hierarchy of the hierarchy is like, we need to create a features file. We need to create a features folder. Now under to that particular folder, right, you can create any number of files with a dot feature extension. With a dot feature extension. And again, under to this particular feature, right, again, you can write multiple scenarios. Okay, and under to this particular scenarios, right, we will write the actions that we need to perform and what we are going to validate. What we are going to validate. So if you see, right, features are nothing but you can simply say collection of requirements, because I am going to create multiple requirements and each feature file represents a requirement. Because each feature file represents a requirement. And under to that particular requirement, right, you will see scenarios. Scenarios are nothing but your test cases. And under the scenario, right, we actually write our test case in a format called precondition, actions, and validations. So preconditions, right, are represented with keyword called given. So if I need to write them, right, I actually write them using grickins. These grickins are nothing but what we are actually calling it as an keywords, through which we actually write a scenario. So whenever you are going to write precondition, right, you need to write under to given. Whenever you are going to write an action, right, then you will write under to when, given, then given, when, and the next one, right, what you are going to validate, right, that you are going to write it then. If you want to write multiple preconditions or actions or validations, right, then we will also use end. Then we will also use end keyword. Then we will also use end keyword. So a feature file represents an a feature file represents an okay, a feature file represents an okay, a feature file represents an requirement. And under to that particular requirement, right, you can write multiple test cases. Each test case was represented as a scenario. Each test case was represented as a scenario. And each scenario will be represented as each scenario will be represented as using given, when, and then keywords. This given, when, and then keywords are called as grickins. If this given, when, and end needs to be execute some code and it should have some meaning, right? That will be given by Cucumber. Or else these are like simple text. Or else these are like a simple text. Okay, anyway, now let us go ahead and now let us see that how we are going to now let us go and now let us see that how we are going to use this. Okay. Now how we are going to use this. Or how you are going to create a feature, then you will easily understand. Let us see how we will see in hands-on that how we are going to create a features. How we are going to create a features. Okay. Okay. How we are going to create a features. Now it is very simple. Now if you go to your project, right, under to this particular project, right click and close all. See anyway, we are not bothered about these folders which are created under to this particular project. And if you already have idea on Playwright, right, just to delete that test examples folder, then automatically you will see this folder structure. Now I need to click on plus symbol and I need to create a folder with name called features. I need to create a folder with a name called features. It means under to this particular folder, right, I can write any set of requirements. Now let us say I want to write a requirement for login. I can simply say login.feature feature. So this is how that we actually create a feature. It means features means it represents multiple requirements. You can create login.feature, searchflight.feature, hotels.feature. You can create any number of features. Each feature represents a requirement. Now under to that particular feature, right, now I need to write a feature. So first step here is I need to write here feature. And what is that particular feature name? Let us say I want to test a login feature. So I need to write here login functionality. Okay, login functionality. So this represents a feature. Now after feature, right, here I need to write a scenario. Scenario represents a test case. I can write a login functionality, login with valid credentials. I can simply say login with valid credentials. Okay, login with valid credentials. Okay, and then right, you can write your test steps using given. Okay, using given. Okay, and you can write user is in login page of application. This is nothing but precondition. And then right, I'm just auto-filling it because I have Copilot enabled, so it is automatically giving me so that I'm automatically filling it. So now you need to understand here. So if you see right, feature files represents collection of requirements. In that right, whatever the files that you create with dot feature represents a functionality or requirement. And a feature represents an requirement. Under to that right, if I need to write some test case, we actually write it using scenario. And each scenario will be written using greetings like given, when, and then. Given means precondition, when means action item, then means what we are going to validate. If you want to understand this right, it is very simple. So if you want to understand this right, it is very, very simple. So let me just drag this. Okay, it is very simple. If you see here, right, what it means here is, if you see, whenever I want to perform, user needs to perform login, right? User should be in login page of that particular application. That is precondition. Now, when user is in login page, right, user should enter valid user ID. Like what, I can simply say, instead of writing this, right, I can simply say valid credentials. Valid credentials. And submit. Okay, and submit. Okay, now once you got this right, now what we are going to do? Valid credentials and submit. And then right, once it got submitted, right, then what we are going to do, user should be in home page of your application. It means it should redirect to home page of your application. This is your scenario. It means this is your one test case. So whenever you are going to write in this way, right, I can write multiple test cases. Means for example, I want to write another test case, then again I need to write with scenario, and I can simply say it is invalid credentials. So when the user is entering invalid credentials, I can simply say user should see an error message. So if you see right here, right, I have written two test cases. My first test case is nothing but a scenario where I'm going to test with valid credentials. And the second test case is nothing but where I'm going to test with invalid credentials. So now if you see right, as I said you right, it actually increases transparency between product and as well as your engineering team. So whenever you write test cases in simple English like this, right, even the product, they can see these test cases and they can easily understand that what you have tested as part of that particular requirement or functionality or feature. So if you see, right, anyone in your team, right, whether he can be a developer, whether he can be a product, whether he can be an SRE, or whether he can be a QA, or whether he can be only a manual QA who does not know any coding, right? But still, right, by seeing this feature file, right, you can easily understand that what we are testing as part of this particular feature. What we have tested as part of this particular feature. So here, right, the first step here is, as I said, right, majorly two components. So whenever you are going to use Cucumber with JS, right, majorly you need to understand these three components. One is nothing but what it is. Features, where you will see collection of requirements, step definitions. Means whenever you are executing this code which is written in English, right, that should be mapped to some code in the back end. That code is nothing but what we are actually calling it as step definitions. And a test runner means we need to create a file with name called cucumber.js, but that is optional. Okay. But that is optional. You can create it or else you can pass these parameters as part of your command prompt from your CLI. From your CLI. What language mode should we select associated with the future file? See here, right, we don't have any language mode. See, Cucumber Write is a common language where you actually write it in simple English. That can be tagged with any other language. If you want to use it with Java, then you need to use Cucumber Java library. If you want to use that with Python, then you need to use PyTest BDD. And in the same way, if you want to use that with your JS, then you need to use CucumberJS. Cucumber does not have any language specific writing your statements. Any Cucumber Write, wherever you are using it with Java or Python or with Cucumber Write, you need to follow the same format. Features means collection of requirements. Feature means where it represents a requirement, and a scenario means it represents a test case. And each scenario has a test steps, right? That test steps means the test case, the test steps will be written using Grickins. And that Grickins are nothing but given, when, and as well as then. Given, when, and as well as then. And given means we actually write a precondition, and when means what actions that we are going to perform, then means what we are going to validate as part of application to say whether it got passed or failed. To say whether it got passed or failed. Now this is how that we will write an scenario. Now let me just first write it for a single scenario. Then then you will know that how you are going to write it. Then you will get some idea that how you are going to write it. Now these are your features. Okay, now under to these particular features, right? Now, whenever I execute this feature, right, it should go and execute some code. When I say user is in login page or whether user is enters valid credentials and submit, and user should be in home page of that particular application. Now for that, right, I need to write some functions or methods in JS, which should be mapped to each and every step that is present in this particular scenario, in this test case. So to get to those, test steps, right? What are the functions that should be executed when I'm calling this, Griffin, like a given, when, and then. For that, right, we need to generate step definitions. So it is very simple. If I need to generate step definitions, right, you just right click on this particular file. You just need to you need to generate that step definition. So if I need to generate that step definitions, right, what we can do here is you can directly go back to your Google Chrome, and this is your after installation, right? Now I want to run it. Now if I want to run it, right, this is the command npx. Npx means node package execution, and I want to execute this cucumber.js. So what it means? See, it's very simple. Now, whenever I'm installing this Cucumber to this node project, right? It was added to your package.json as a library or dependency. So it will automatically download all the required node modules. Okay, it will automatically download all the required node modules. Okay, see under to node modules, right? It will automatically download all the libraries under to this particular node modules. Under to this, right, we will have a library called CucumberJS. Okay, we'll also have a library called CucumberJS. Okay, so if I want to directly execute that particular library to run this particular test, right, then we need to use npx and you can simply say cucumber, and you can simply copy that particular command, whatever you want to execute it, right, you need to say npx CucumberJS. So if you run it, right, it will automatically search for feature files which are present under to your project, and it will execute it. So if you see here, right, I have only one feature file, one scenario got executed, and in that, right, I have 3 steps. Now if you see, right, whenever it is getting executed, right, it is showing that it got failed. Okay, there are failures, and it is showing why it got failed, because for every step that what you write, right, you don't have step definitions for it. Step definition means you don't have code for it. So what I need to do, I need to go to my Cucumber and I need to create another folder with a name called steps. And under to these steps, right, now again here, right, I need to create a file with a name called login.steps.js. It indicates that these are the steps. And here, right, whenever you are executing it, right, for this particular feature file, right, whatever the steps that you have, right, those steps are missing. So you need to copy that steps which are showing what steps are missing in your command, in your console. You need to copy those steps. Okay, and then, right, you need to paste that under to this particular file. And you need to paste that under to this particular file. And if you see, right, these are like sample text. I need to remove this. Where given, when, and then is important. Okay, and I need to remove all other. Okay, and I need to remove all other steps. Okay, Control A, Control V. I have only these. Okay, and where I need to say given is not required, I can remove it. When is not required, I can remove it. And then user should be in home page of your application. I can remove this. I can remove this. And I can simply say this is what it is and escape. Now I can remove this user should be in your user should be in home page of your application and this is not required now. I am removing this. So if you see, right, these are the steps that are required to execute that particular code which is written in your Cucumber. So here, right, there is some alignment issue. So I am copying this and I am going back and I am adding here. This is given. And this is control X and again I am going back and I am writing here when. And again this is done. So control X and again I am adjusting my alignment and I am pasting it to save it. So whenever you are going to run these steps, right, you need to write the import statement. So for example, right now without writing that import statement, let me execute it. Now you need to remove the code that is written inside to that particular each and every step definition. But now these two are like comments, right? I am removing this particular code. Now just to write code to print, whenever I am going to execute this, right, it should print console.log and it should print this particular message. And I am adding console.log messages. When it is executing, right, it should print this one, but I am adding as symbol before it to understand this is this got executed. This code is getting executed because that will be printed on your console, right? To understand this got executed, right? I'm adding simply this as symbols before to that particular statements which are getting printed. Okay, I'm adding hyphen as well like this. So you will easily understand that it is an hyphen. Okay, this is nothing but the test step that got executed. Now again, you need to go back to your test and again you need to run CucumberJS. So when you're running it, right, again it is showing that these steps are missing. Because why it is showing these steps are missing? Because I have not written import statement to use it. So here, right, I need to write constant and I need to write this statement. Like given, when, then are nothing but the relevant modules which I need to run these statements. Now again save it. Now again run my script. So for that, right, I'm using a clear and now I am running it. And now I am running it. So what happens? Now again it is showing that it has not executed. It has not executed because it is trying to search for these particular steps under to this particular feature because I have not given any cucumber.js file, right? So I have written steps separately. So these steps are getting searched. So if I want to automatically pick that without giving any cucumber.js configuration file, what I need to do here is under to features, I need to create a folder with name called support. Now under to that particular folder, right, I need to write these steps. I need to move these steps. Now save it. Now again, let me run this cucumber.js. It means it is defaultly picking the location which is present under to feature file, under to support, under to steps, and where you have written your step definitions. It means these step definitions are nothing but the code that what you have written to execute when you are executing that particular scenario. Now under to these particular steps, right, here we need to write your Playwright code so that Playwright code will be executed. So here I will write code to open browser, to maximize, to invoke application and click on login button and to go to login page. And here I will write code to enter user ID, password and click on submit button. And here I am going to write code to click on and to validate whether I am into welcome page, whether I have logout button on my home page or not. So that code, right, which will be written in Playwright, right, that code should be written under to these particular step definitions. And here this given with open and close brace and it is creating a function, when with open and close brace and it is creating a function, then with open and close brace with creating a function, right? These are called as step definitions. These are called as step definitions. And this given when then keywords, that whatever you are using, right, as part of your code, as part of your feature file. If you open here and if you see that particular feature file, these are called as gherkins. What if you see, right, given when then scenario feature, all these called are gherkins. It means these are like a few keywords through which it represents a feature, it represents a test case, and given when then represents some test steps. Where given represents a precondition, when represents the action item, and then represents what we are going to validate. What we are going to validate. Is this part clear? So this is about how this is like a basic setup to check whether you are able to run your Cucumber test or not. So what happens whenever you are going to run this particular command? Let me just go back and let me just show you. So whenever you are going to terminal and whenever you are going to run your command. So if you see, right, whenever you go to terminal and whenever you are going to run your command, right, whenever you are going to run that particular command, right, whenever you are going to run that particular command, right, what happens? So whenever I'm going to write npx cucumber-js, what it will do here is it will go and search for a feature file and it will execute this particular feature. Okay, so whenever you are going to run this particular command, right, it will go and search for feature files and it will run this particular feature. In this feature, right, it will run the scenario, means test case. It will run given. So when it is running given, right, it will go and search that method under two test steps. Under two test steps, right, where you have that particular method, right, that method will be executed. That method will be executed for given. And then it will again go back and it will go and execute when statement now. Now when it is executing when, right, again it will go and search under two steps. Under two steps, it will go and execute the code that is written under two when. So here, right, we have feature and that feature, right, whatever the steps that we have, right, for each step, there will be a step definition. Whenever it is executing that step, right, it will go and execute the code that is written inside to that particular step definition. Inside to that particular step definition. So here, right, you need to understand, see, feature means which is nothing but part of the functionality on your system, which we need to test it. If I say scenario, the scenario represents a specific test case, like one use case, which you want to test as part of that particular functionality. And then each scenario, right, each test case will be written using some test steps. Okay, and here, right, these test steps are written it using given, when, then, end, right? And these are called as gherkins. Even though if you see feature is a gherkin, scenario is a gherkin, given is a gherkin, when is a gherkin, then is a gherkin. Feature represents the requirement or feature or functionality that should be tested. Scenario represents to test that particular feature, right? A use case or a test case should be written. The test case is represented by scenario. And if I need to execute that particular scenario, right, I need to write test steps in given, when, then format. Given represents it is like a setup or a precondition. When represents it is action that what we are going to perform on our application. Then represents with what expected value you are comparing with your actual value to make it as pass or fail. So whenever you are executing this, right, I need to run this particular command npx cucumber.js. So it will go and find out the feature file and it will run that particular feature file. So when it is running that feature file step, right, it will go and check that step is present under two steps and it will be executed. So how it is going to identify whether this step is present in that particular steps through regular expression. So if you see, right, the first step here, right, this indicates it's as a regular expression. So it will go and search with the same regular expression in that particular file. If any regular expression is matching with that particular step, it will execute that particular step definition. It is going to execute that particular step definition. Okay, so in this way, right, you can write any. Means it's like, say, for example, let us say I want to write another test case. So I can copy this and I can write another test case here. And now, right, it is for invalid credentials. That is why I'm saying invalid, and here it is invalid, and here, right, I should get, should see error message. So this is our second test case. Now, if you see, right, whenever I run this, right, so before running this, right, I will run clear. So I want to clear my complete console. Now I need to write npx, now I need to write npx CucumberJS, npx cucumber cucumber-js. So if you run it right, it is going to run and it will show you the missing steps only. See, whatever the steps that we already have, right, that will be executed. So if you see, right, it has executed, user is in login page, user enter valid credentials, and user should be in home page. And in second test case, user is in login page got executed, but you don't see these two steps when user enters invalid credentials and user enters following. So if you see, right, whenever you're running this cucumber.js, right, it is getting executed the test which has the code, and then it is showing the missing steps. Now let us assume that you have 100 test cases already in Cucumber. You have 100 test cases already in Cucumber. Okay, now you have 100 test cases which are already present in Cucumber. Now you are adding an additional two new test cases. Okay, for that, right, you have written scenarios. Okay, but I need to add only step definitions for these two scenarios. When I run npx cucumber-js, right, when I run npx, okay, cucumber-js, right, it will run all the test cases. And finally, it will tell you what definitions are, what step definitions are not available. But it is like time taking, right? It means it will run all the 100 cases and then it will tell you what steps are missing. So instead of running all these 100 test cases, right, I want to check for every test step in scenario, we have a step definition. Then we actually use a dry run option. Then we actually use a dry run option. It means, see, it will not run the code that is written inside to that particular step definition. It will only check whether for every step in your feature, right, you have a step definition for it. So for that, right, what I need to do, I need to simply write npx, I need to write npx cucumber -js, and then I need to write dry run. If you run it right, so it is not going to, sorry, here, right, it is like a dry-run. Okay, so if you run this right, it is not going to execute the test case now. See, now it has not executed the code. It is showing only the missing steps which are not available as part of that particular test. But if you see, without using this dry run, if you run it right, it will also execute the code written inside to that particular test. If you see, right, the code has been executed. As I said, right, I kept a hash symbol to understand this is the code written under to that particular step definition. This is the code that is written under to your step definition. Okay, this is the code that is written under to your step definition. Okay, so you need to understand that how you are going to ignore already the steps which has code, and I need to identify only the missing steps. Then what I need to do here is I need to use -, dry run and -, dry run. Now you see, right, this will actually run your run and it will show you only the missing steps. It means you need to add only these two steps there. So you just need to copy this and you need to go back to your test steps. Now in these test steps, right, I need to add these test steps. So what I need to do here is I need to add only these test steps. Okay, and I need to copy them here. Okay, now when I copied this, right, these are like a sample text I need to remove. I need to remove this sample text. And this when, right, I need to press Ctrl X and I need to add from here. And in the same way, right, this and also I need to click on Ctrl X and I need to add that from here. Okay, I need to add that from here. And here, right, this is the sample code. I need to remove that particular sample code and I need to write code here, like console.log and console.log. Okay, and save it. So if you see here, right, it means you are just adding some samples code. Now again, if you go back to your terminal, Now again, if you go back to terminal, now I am saying it clear, CLEAR, clear. Now if you run again, try run, it will show you that no steps are missing. 2 scenarios, 2 and 6 steps already you have it. Now remove dry run and run so that it will actually run your test case. So it is executing 2 test cases. First test case has executed these 3 steps. Second test case has executed with these 3 steps. So dry run is very, very important. When you want to add any new new step definitions to your existing Cucumber framework, framework. Okay, so this is about your dry run. Now here, right, you need to understand these things. Now, right, at a high level, right, you got some idea, like what is a Cucumber, and when I'm writing Cucumber, right, what do you mean by features? Under to feature, right, how do we create a feature? It means it is nothing but a file you need to create with a feature extension, dot feature extension. Now under to that, right, you can write any scenario, and scenario represents a test case. And whenever you're going to write a scenario, right, we need to write some test steps. And those steps are written using given, when, and then. So given means it is like you are going to write it as a precondition, which should be, it is like setup step. When means it is nothing but actions. And then means what we are going to validate as part of that particular test. As part of that particular test. As part of that particular test. And you can also use the end if you have multiple preconditions, multiple post conditions, multiple actions, right? And multiple validations, right? You can use end as well. End as well. Now the next criteria is whenever I'm going to write a scenario, right? For every step, which is nothing but what we are actually calling it as a gherkin, which you write it using gherkins, we need to also have a step definition. What is this step definition? This step definition is nothing but this step definition is nothing but the code that should be executed. The code should be executed. The code that should be executed. The code that should be executed. When it is when your feature scenario is getting executed. It means it is like whenever your test step is getting executed, right? Like given, when, and then, right? It will go and execute respective code that is written in Playwright. That is nothing but what we actually call it as a step definition. That is nothing but what we actually call it as step definition. Okay, and here, right, one blind rule. There may be few people who are not, who does not have any idea on Playwright, right? So if you see, right, see in Java, right, how you write import statement, right? In the same way, if I want to use given, when, then from Cucumber, right, you need to write this statement to import it. You can write that statement. You need to write that constant given, comma, when, comma, then, and it should be imported from Cucumber.js library. What now? This is called as module, so it should be imported from that particular module. So that is what it is. So it is, if I need to summarize it, right, the quick summary is like, what is BDD? The idea of writing test cases in natural language. So it can be understood by anyone. Means you're writing your test cases in simple English, so anyone can understand your natural language. And then the second one, what is gherkin? It is nothing but a grammar that we use in English to understand what is precondition, what is action, what we are validating. And then what is Cucumber? Cucumber is a tool which actually helps us to create a test cases in simple English using a gherkins like a feature, scenario, and as well as given, when, then, and as well as end. Now, what is Playwright? Playwright is like, it is like if I need to actually perform actions on my application, right, I need some methods, and those methods are available under to Playwright. Those methods are available under to Playwright. Okay, those methods are available under to Playwright. And another important thing here is, for example, if you don't want, okay, for example, if you want to directly, if you don't want to set these settings, right? If you don't want to set these settings, okay, and if you don't want to set these settings, okay, or else, okay, if you don't want to set these, if you want to set these settings directly under to a file instead of passing this dry run and everything from your command prompt. Okay, what you can do here is you can also create a file under to this particular project with a name called cucumber.js. Okay, cucumber.js and draw and drag that cucumber.js to outside to that particular project file. Okay, and here, right, you can add all these features. So let us say I want to perform only dry run. I can make it as a dry run is equal to true. Okay, and let me just remove all these other options. What I'm using here. Okay, like format and all these things, right? I'm removing them and I'm simply writing a dry run here. It means? What it means whenever I'm going to run this, right? See, for example, if I say npx and if I say playwright and if I say npx and if I want to run cumbr cucumber-js, so it will automatically run it based upon the configuration that you are setting here. See, based on the configuration that you are setting here. See here, right? If I don't give this location, right, it will be not considered. But I'm giving this location as the steps, right? So it is not required that now you need to write these steps under to your support. If you remove this, right, now I'm deleting that particular support folder. I have written steps separately, features and as well as steps separately. And I'm able to give that under to this particular cucumber.js. Means it should check for the steps here. If there are any hooks means preconditions that should check under to support. Okay, and then it should automatically run that particular test cases. So now again, if you run it, right, so now if I say control, I am clearing it and I am simply going and I am running this one. Now see, it has executed dry run is equal to true. True means it is not executing it. So if I write false, so what happens? Now the code will be executed. See, now it is executing the code written inside to that particular test case. It means you can also pass it from your command prompt or else you can create a CucumberJS config file where you can set those configurations. Where you can set those configurations. Okay. And now, right, here, right, see, here, right, the first part, it's like, see, now I'm able to create a feature file, I'm able to create step definitions, and I'm able to run those test cases, and I'm able to see the results. Now here, right, okay, now I want, okay, now I want to enable few features. Now I want to enable a few features. So in CucumberJS, right, configuration means it is like where you are going to create some global values which can be used as part of your execution. Now in Cucumber, right, whenever we have one of the setting where, okay, where whenever you're running this, whenever you're going to run this Cucumber report, right, there are few, I can simply say there are few logs, okay, which are passed to, your Cucumber online. So I don't want my report should be shared with any online Cucumber, studio. Then what I can do here is I can also add an option called publish quiet. It means it will not enable any reports that are sharing online with a Cucumber community. So if you see right now, even though if you run it right, it will execute same, but it will only disable. Means see whenever you are going to run your Cucumber test, right, we also have Cucumber Studio, which is like an online Cucumber, where whenever you are executing, right, it may use few reports of your execution by that particular Cucumber community. So if I don't want to share them, right, then I can use this feature like publish quiet is equal to true. So it again, if you are working in a secure network, right, anyway, it cannot share these reports from your network. But it is always better to use this publish quiet is equal to true. Publish quiet is equal to true. Okay, and now the second one. Okay, and now the second one is like, for example, if I want to set the path, see, if I want to set the path of my feature files from where it is getting executed. Okay, you can also set that particular path using your path variable. Okay, using your path variable means you can also set that particular path using your path variable. Okay, using your path variable. Okay, and another see let us not go ahead with every concept. Again, it will be a little bit confusing. We have main some features which you need to remember. So if I need to understand the main features, right? The first feature is nothing but what you need to understand how you are going to create a feature file and how you are able to generate step definitions for it. And now under to these particular step definitions, right? We actually write our Playwright code to perform execution on your application. Now the second part here is you can also use tags. For example, let us say I can use this is nothing but the login test case. Now let us say this is a scenario, right? Let us say I'm saying this is nothing but the smoke test case, and as well as it is nothing but the smoke test case. Now let us say this test case is nothing but a functional test case. Or else you can simply say this test case is nothing but which we use it for functionality testing. So I can add multiple tags. Let us say this is nothing but functional, and this is also functional, and I can say this is also a regression test case. I can give tags like this to my test cases. I can give tags like this to my test cases. Now, if you see, right, if I want to run only these test cases, right, now what we can do here is we can also set an option in your cucumber.json file. In your cucumber.json file. What is that option means? See, if you open that cucumber.json file, right, here I can also kept another option called as tags. And for example, if I want to run any tag, let us say I want to run only smoke, then I can give that tag name here. So whenever you are executing this, right, it will run only smoke test case. So if you see, right, only one scenario got executed, which is nothing but your smoke test, which is nothing but your smoke test. And again, right here it is showing when user is in your login page, it is undefined. User enter valid credentials and submit. So let me just go to this step and check. User is in login page, user enters valid code and submit. Now it should be executed, right? So if you again rerun it, so it will be executed as part of your smoke, and it is showing that one is undefined. What I know, one is undefined. What is that undefined? This when user enters this one, right? Copy this and again go back to your login steps. And here, right, I need to give this as when, and when user should be in, when user is entering credentials, and here, right, I need to write those steps. So I can simply say console. Now again, let me rerun it. So it should execute the steps. See, one scenario got executed and three steps got executed. And if you see here, right, if I'm using smoke means it is running only this particular test case. If I use functional, or let us say I want to use to run a negative test case, then I need to use this particular tag here. Now if I want to run this negative test, right, then I need to use a negative. Then I need to use negative. Negative. So it will run only negative test case now. So save it. Now again run it. So it is going to run again only one test case. It means if I want to run test cases based upon my selection, I need to use tags. If I want to run everything, then what I need to do here is I need to give here a login because that was given at feature level. If you see, right, if you go, this complete feature has been given as login. If I run this, right, it will run all the test cases present under to that particular feature. So if you run right, it will run two test cases. So you can use these tags to run your test cases. Now let us say whenever you are going to run these test cases using tags, right? Again, here we can use and, or, and not. Whenever we are going to use this tags, right? And again, here you can use and, or, and not. It means, see, for example, now let us say if you go back and if you go to CucumberJS, now let us say if I write before to it not, it means I don't want to run this negative case. negative case. Except negative, right? I want to run all other test cases. Then I can use like this. It will run only one positive case. Okay, now let us say I want to run based on multiple tag combinations. Let me just tell you an example. Now, let us say if you go to this particular feature, right, I want to run a test case which has smoke and regression. Now, what I can do here is I can simply, now let us say this is also smoke. Now, let us say this is also, I'm marking it as smoke. But I need to run only the test case which has smoke and regression tag. Now, what I need to do here is I need to go back to CucumberJS and here, right, I need to write smoke and regression. It means whenever you see both, whenever a test case has both the tags, right, then it will run only that particular test case. So if you see, right, there is only one test which has smoke and regression. If I write or means even though if I have smoke or even though if I have regression, right, it will run the both the test cases. Or means even though any one tag is present for that particular test case, right, it will execute. It will execute. Okay, okay. Yes, you need to install Playwright under to your Cucumber folder. So that is what I'm saying, right? Because see here, it is not with respect to Playwright. It is like you need to create that as a node project. So if you install Playwright only, it becomes it as a node project. Okay, and since you are going to use your Playwright methods, right, you need to make that particular project by installing a Playwright. Then only that project will be created as a Playwright project. So we should also install Playwright under to that particular project, which you are planning to use it for Cucumber. So if you see, right, whenever I want to run some selective test cases, right, I can use these tags. I can use these tags through which I am able to execute my tests. Selective test cases. For example, if I write smoke, right, it will run only smoke test cases. If I use smoke and regression, right, it will run all the test cases which have smoke and as well as regression. Okay, which has smoke and as well as regression. Now, for example, if I want to run those test cases in parallel, I can simply enable parallel. We have an option called parallel, and you can simply say that I want to execute two test cases in parallel, three test cases in parallel. I can use this option. So it will automatically, means whenever you're running it, right, it will automatically run those test cases in parallel and it will give you the result. Okay, it means this option will help you to run parallel. And then, right, see, for example, right, in your older versions of Cucumber, if any step is missing, right, it will not show that particular test case as failed. In older versions, right, you can also use an option called strict. It means if any step is missing, right, then it should show that particular test case has failed. Then I need to add this option. Then I need to add that particular strict as option. It means, see, I'll show you an example. Now, if you go to login feature, and let us say I removed this particular step. Okay, now again I am running this particular test. So it should show that particular test case as failed. Okay, it should show that particular test case as failed. So for that, right, we actually use that strict is equal to true. Strict is equal to true. It should actually show that particular test case as failed. For example, what happens? Let us say if I write false here. Now let me just go and if I run it, right, so what happens? It is running it and it is showing it as undefined. Okay, but in newer version, right, it is not required. It is defaultly handling it. It is defaultly handling it. Now let me just go and run this one. And if you see, right, it is showing that one has undefined and one got skipped. But one test case got skipped. Now, for example, if I add that particular step here, now again if I run it right, now again if I am running this right, now what happens? It will execute the code written for that particular step and it will show you how many got passed and how many got failed. How many got passed and how many got failed. Now we also have another important option, like we also have another important option. What you know, okay, we also have another important option, which is nothing but fail fast. See, now let us assume that you have 5 test cases in your feature file. Now, first case is failing. Even if login, even though if your first test case fails, right, you will get a report for all passed or failed. Once everything got executed. Once everything got executed. Okay. So here, right, the fail fast option is like, see, whenever any first test fails, right, Cucumber will stop execution immediately and it will show you that failure. It means, see, I'll tell you an example. So we also have an option called fail fast. What it means here is, see, for example, fail fast option. What it means here is, for example, you have 5 test cases in your Cucumber. Now, whenever you're executing all these 5 test cases, right? Now, let us say first test case got failed. Okay, now second got passed. Okay, now third got passed. Now fourth got failed. Now fifth got passed. Now, if you are executing it right, it will run all these 5 test cases and finally it will give you the result as a summary. But let us say I want to make sure whenever there is a failure, right, it should immediately stop my execution and give me the result. Then I need to use this option called fail fast. You can simply go and if you type here fail fast is equal to false, means it is not applied. If I want to apply it right, then you need to write it as true. Then you need to write it as true. It means whenever a single test case got failed, right, it will stop your execution. It will stop your execution at that point of time and it will give you the result immediately on your application. See, I'll tell you that how you can mark it as a failed. Okay, so here, right, normally, right, how do you say it got failed? So I need to throw an exception here. So for that, right, again, you need some Playwright basic that how we are going to use expect. How we are going to use expect means we have a module called expect. So you can simply say constant and you can simply say expect and you can simply say that expect we are using it from at the rate of Playwright test. Okay, so this is how that we are going to use expect. So whenever I need to do validation, right? So here, right, I can simply say expect and I can simply say true should be true, then it will pass. Let us say if I say true is false, it will fail. It will fail. Now let me run it and see if there is a failure, right, it will immediately stop that particular test. It does not execute your next set of test case. It is like I am immediately stopping when I see that particular failure. So whenever I want, means let us say I am executing 5 test cases and if I want to stop my execution whenever I get my first failure and it should also give me the result that what got failed, right, then I need to use this fail fast example. Then I need to use this fail fast example. Now here, right, see, you need to understand a few things like what in Cucumber, right, there are few features like how do we create a feature file, how do we create a step definition, and how you are going to run a Cucumber test, how you are able to run your selective, okay, how you are going to run your selective Cucumber test, and how you can perform a dry run, how you can actually perform a dry run. Okay, and then right, you need to understand the other feature as well. What are means how you can enable parallel execution, how you can enable parallel execution, how you can enable fail fast, option, and how you can enable your execution as published quite means don't share these reports online to with any this one. These are like some few options that what we had seen till now. Okay, now we need to understand what are hooks and how you are going to generate reports in your Cucumber. So it is very simple. If I need to generate reports in Cucumber, right? Again, we have we can add options. Okay, we can add options like if I want to get any detailed report in your console. It means if you see right here itself, I can add options so that I want to get a report. Means that reports right will be used with format. If I want to get console progress report, I need to use progress. If I want to get a JSON report, I need to add this parameter, this option. And if I want to get HTML reports, I need to add this option. If I want to get XML reports, I need to add these options. If I want to get a detailed console report, I need to use this pretty option. If I want to generate multiple reports, right, you can write like this. For example, if I don't want any report, right, you can remove that from this particular format. So whenever you are executing that, right, again, here, right, I'm commenting this or else it will fail. So I'm commenting this and again I'm running my test. So if you see, right, now this time, right, what happens? It is going to execute and you will also get reports. So if you refresh, right, you will also get reports. You will automatically get reports. Under to reports, right, so you can see HTML report. Right click, go to copy that particular report and go back to your browser and open that particular report on your browser. You can see HTML report. So this is the feature that got executed and what steps got passed and failed. And the second is like, again, you can go back to your VS Code and if you click on JSON, this is your JSON report. Okay, this is your XML report and this is your JSON report. In JSON format, JavaScript object notation. This is your, XML report. Okay, where you will see that report in XML format. And then, right, see, whenever you are executing that, right, you are also getting the detailed report in your console. So if I want to see the detailed report, right, then you need to enable pretty. Pretty means it will show you which test got executed and what steps got executed as part of that particular step. Okay. Already we have parallel in configuration file. If you make there, it will work here or not. Yes, see, whenever you are running this npx playwright, CucumberJS, right? If you want to enable parallel means you should automatically add that particular parallel under to this particular CucumberJS. If you don't add this by or if you are commenting it means it will not work. Or else you can also send this parallel from your command prompt as well. In some tutorials, right? What they will show you is they will ask you to pass like this hyphen parallel and you need to pass 2. It will be executing those test cases in parallel. But normally, right, instead of passing it from command prompt, right, you can achieve that control from that particular CucumberJS config file. Config file. If you want to execute it in sequence, right, put it as 1. Now, if you run it right, it will be executed in sequence. Now it will be executed in sequence. Now what I need to do here is remove this parallel and if you are running here, right, it will be executed in sequence. It will be executed in sequence. See, when you're executing that in sequence, right, when you're executing that in sequence, right, how much time it is taking? It is taking around 20, seconds. Okay, so you can, means when you're writing your actual code inside to it, right, Playwright, then you will see decline in your execution time when you're executing that in parallel. When you're executing that in parallel. Okay, so if you write here parallel or if you're passing the hyphen parallel in your CLI from command prompt, right, it will execute your test cases in parallel. It will execute your test cases in parallel. Okay, and another important thing here is, so these are like some major features that what we use. See, like a feature file, step definition, running a Cucumber test using tags. Okay, under two tags, right? Again, you need to remember you can apply tag to a feature, you can apply tag to a scenario, okay, at a scenario level. And if when you are using tags, right, you can use and you can use or and you can use not and you can use not. And then, right, you can also perform dry run, parallel execution, fail fast, publish void, hooks, and you can also generate reports. And you can also generate reports. Now, here, right, another important thing here is we have Cucumber hooks. So, for example, before executing any test case, I want to execute some precondition and as well as post condition. Then what I can do here is I can just go to your VS Code and here, right, we have a concept. See, whenever you're executing any test, right, we may need to execute some preconditions and we need to execute our test case and then we need to execute some post condition. So whenever I need to execute like this, right, we have a concept called hooks. Hooks means here it is like precondition, post condition. But how you use at the rate of before and at the rate of after in your JUnit, at the rate of before method and at the rate of after method in your test ng. And at the rate of before and at the rate of after in your Playwright, we also have, right, before all and after all, or before each and after each in your Playwright, right? In the same way, if I want to do that, right, then what we can do here is you can simply go back to your VS Code. And here, right, under to your VS Code, right, you need to create we need to create a folder called support. Now, under to support, right, you need to create a file with name called hooks.js. And you can write hooks like this. So for example, whenever I need to write hooks, right, I need to first import them. So it is nothing but I need to import before. So I need to import before and after. Okay, and then, right, I need to write that before and after here. So this is like an asynchronous function. Okay, where I am going to write this one. Where I am going to write this is before and this is after. Now, if you see, right, if I write before and after, right, whenever I am going to execute this, it will execute this particular before first, and then it will execute the test case, and then it will execute this after. To see that, right, what I am doing here is under to CucumberJS, right, I am removing this pretty. Because if you see pretty, right, you will see the detailed execution. Okay, so I am removing that pretty. Okay, that I am removing that pretty. And now run it. npx cumbr cucumber -js. So what happens? It is running your. So if you see here, right, it will execute first before hook for every test. And then it is going to execute your at the rate of hook. But it is going to execute your test case. And finally, it is executing after hook. It is like post condition. Again, it is executing before hook for second test case, and then after hook. And then, excuse me, then after hook. Okay. It's like, if I need to apply any precondition or a post condition, right? That code you can write under to this particular hooks.js, which you need to create by creating a folder called support. So why we are creating this folder support and writing this hooks.js under to it is, if you see in that particular configuration, right, I mentioned that hooks are written under to this particular support.js. And all the step definitions are written under to this particular folder. So it is important that if I am saying hooks should be picked from this, right, then you need to write that hooks under to support folder. So I have created a folder with a name called support, and under to this, right, I have written hooks.js. I had written hooks.js. Now I have written hooks.js. Okay, now in this, right, we have a feature. We have a feature. Okay, we have a feature where we can implement where we can implement where you can implement tagged hooks. It means what I mean to say here is I have multiple hooks. Let me just write an example. Let us say I have multiple hooks like this. Okay, I have created multiple before and multiple after. Okay, and I want to execute only this hook only for smoke test cases which I am executing. And I want to execute only this hook for regression cases. Okay, and if I want to apply hooks for few hooks only for smoke, and few hooks only for regression, and again I want to apply few hooks only for all the test cases. All the test cases I need to apply. Then, right, I can also use the tagged hooks. Means I can specify tags, and I can write that if this before should be executed only for smoke, and this after should be executed only for smoke test case. And this before should be executed only for regression. Okay, and I can simply say this should be executed only for regression. Only for regression. This after should be executed only for regression. So if you see, right, now let us say you go to this particular feature. Here I have smoke, right, and I have one as regression. Now let us say this I am making it as regression. Now let us say if I want to execute only smoke test case, now what I need to do, I need to go here and I need to write only smoke. So you can have multiple preconditions, and few preconditions should be executed only for smoke test case. Then if you run this particular, then if you are going to run this particular test, right, it will run only smoke test case, and it will execute only the hooks which should be executed as part of that particular smoke test. These are called as tagged hooks. Tagged hooks means it is very simple. When you have multiple preconditions, but in that, right, few preconditions should be executed only for regression, and a few preconditions should be executed only for only for smoke. So what I need to do here is, whenever you are going to create a test, right, you should make sure that smoke and regression are two different test cases. Now, if you are running this, right, whenever I am running any smoke test case, right, it will execute only smoke preconditions. So if you see, right, it has executed before regression and after all scenarios, and here also it has executed all scenarios, and it has executed after smoke and after regression. Now what I need to do here is, I need to make sure that I am saving this particular file properly, and again go back to my hooks, and I need to correctly adjust it. So if you see, right, this is for before, I need to execute it for only smoke. Okay, and this is for before, and I should execute only for regression. And this is for after, I need to execute only for regression. And this is for smoke, which I need to execute only for smoke test case. And this is for all the test cases. So you need to go back and you need to save it, and you need to go here and you need to see this is smoke and this is regression. So save it. I want to execute only regression case. Now you need to go here and you need to run npx CucumberJS. So it is going to execute only one scenario, which is the smoke. And if you see, right, it has executed only smoke precondition and smoke post condition, and one which can be executed for all the scenarios. So for example, if I am executing here regression, it means I need to go here and I need to change here. I want to execute only regression test case. So I am executing regression regression. So if I'm executing this, right, it will execute only regression. So it will execute only the precondition code which is written inside to regression. So it is executing only regression precondition and regression post condition. So you can have here, right, you need to understand, you can have multiple preconditions and post conditions. And for each precondition and post condition, right, you can also tag that with your test case. Whether that particular precondition should be executed for this tag or this tag or this tag. It means when I'm able to tag that precondition with that particular tag, right, whenever I'm executing any test case with this tag, then only this precondition and post condition will be executed. Then only the precondition and post condition will be executed. Then only the precondition and post condition will be executed. Okay, so these are called as tagged hooks. Means see, it is very simple. These two are not much important, like publish quiet and fail fast. See, for example, when you are using any tool, right, there are few failures will be shared online with that particular tool as well. In the same way, right, whenever you're executing your test cases using Cucumber, right, there are few analytics as part of your reports will be shared by Cucumber. If I don't want those reports should be shared by Cucumber, right, then I need to use publish quiet. Publish quiet means it does not share any reports outside to your network. And fail fast means it is very simple. You are executing 5 test cases. You are executing 5 test cases. Okay, and whenever you are going to execute 5 test cases, right? Yeah, this is first session. This is the first session on Cucumber. And we are only trying to see only Cucumber features. We are not seeing anything that what we write as part of Playwright in this particular Cucumber. For that, right, we had already done a session in last week, right, where I explained you that how you are going to write Cucumber Playwright tests. That you need to write it. But I don't want guys to confuse. So we are only driving Cucumber features. And then if they have idea on Playwright, right, they can use this Cucumber to write their Playwright tests. And fail fast. Fail fast means, see, very simple. You are executing 5 test cases. Let us say second and third got failed. Normally, right, in current execution, right, it will show you the complete 5 test cases and it will show you second and fourth got failed. But let us say for the first execution itself, when you're executing it, right, if your second test case is getting failed, I don't want to run third, fourth, and fifth. I want to immediately stop my execution and I want to show that your second test case got failed. Then I need to use fail fast is equal to true. It means in the first iteration of your failure itself, it should stop your execution. It should not continue and also execute other test cases. Then I will use fail fast. Then I will be using fail fast. Okay, so here, right, you need to remember, means here, right, we have a concept of hooks and we also have a concept of tagged hooks. It means I can tag few hooks with tags. So only for those test cases, that hooks will be executed. That hooks will be executed. So these are called as tagged hooks. These are called as tagged hooks. Okay, and another important thing here is, and okay, now another important thing here is, for example, if I want to execute some hooks, okay, and I want to execute some hooks, okay, and if I want to execute them in a specific order, then you should also maintain that order in that particular hooks.js. Let us say first I want to execute one precondition and then I want to execute another precondition, right? You can execute means, for example, let us say I want to execute a precondition at your suit level, and I want to execute that particular precondition at your test level. If I want to execute precondition at feature level, right, for all the test cases in that particular one, right, then I will use before all. If I want to execute for before running all the test cases, right, I need to use after all. And before and after will be executed for each and every test. And before all and after all will be executed only once before executing all those test cases. Before executing all those test cases. Now, let me just show you by running an example, then you'll easily understand. Now, if you see, right, I am running only regression. Okay, now whenever you run this, right, it is showing that, it is showing that, okay, if you see, right, let me just clear it and then run it. CLEAR clear. And then you need to run it. So whenever I need to run this, right, I should also make sure that this before all and after all should be also imported here. Then only you can use this, this one. Now what I'm doing is I'm using clear. Now go to your CucumberJS and I want to run only regression test case. Now if I'm running this regression test case, right, see it will run only one test case which is marked as regression. But for that, right, first it will execute all as a precondition before executing all the test cases. Then it has executed only the regression precondition. Then it has executed the test, and then it has executed after all scenarios and only for regression. And after executing all the test cases, it will execute this after all hook. After all hook. So this one, right, you need to add these hooks and you need to check by executing different test cases. Then only you will understand it. It is like a precondition, post condition, before executing all the test cases, after executing all the test cases. Before executing each and every test and after executing each and every test. If I write before means this will be executed for every test. After means it will be executed for every test. Before all means it will be executed only once before executing all the test cases. After all means it will be executed only once after executing all the test cases. After executing all the test cases. Okay. After executing all the test cases. So if you see, right, for example, so for example, now let us say I am running a test. Now I got failure in that particular test. Now let us assume that I want to run only one test case. Now if you go to this particular login steps, right? And here, right, let us say this is nothing but the test that I am going to fail and it is nothing but a valid scenario, right? So what I am going to do here is I want to run it as smoke. So I am going to CucumberJS and I want to run this particular smoke. Now I want to run this particular smoke. Okay, now whenever you're running this particular smoke, right? What you can do here is whenever you want to run it, right? I will say npx. Okay, how do we run it? I need to run npx. I need to run npx cucumber -js. This is for running your test cases. Now what I am doing here is I want means I want to also record. Okay, I also want to record. Okay, so I'm passing my format option. Or else what you can do here is you can also give an option. You can also give an option. Okay, you can also give an option. So go back to your CucumberJS file, and here, right, we have format. So now under to format, right, I'm also adding another option like this. Okay, it means whenever you see any failure, right, it will automatically generate a file with name called rerun.txt. So I'm intentionally failing that particular test. It means I'm running a smoke test, but it is intentionally failed. So when you run that particular test, right, it got failed. It has executed only one and it is failed and two steps got fixed. Now if you see, right, it will automatically generate a file under to your project with name called rerun.txt. See, it will automatically generate a file with name called rerun.txt. It means it is showing you that future login.feature and it is showing some text file here. Now, if I want to rerun only that particular failed test, now what I need to do here is I can simply write npx playwright.js and you can simply give that rerun dot text file. So it will rerun only that particular, it is going to rerun only that particular cucumber-js. So it is like I need to rerun only failure. So it is showing at line 1, character 1, there is some error. Okay, there is something that command itself, it is showing it as an error where it is showing rerun.txt. Okay, so let me again give this in double quotes. See, it will rerun only that particular failed test case. It means let us say, see, normally, right, in real practice, right, what happens? See, I'll tell you an example. Now, let us say you have executed 100 test cases. Now, with that 100, right, 80 got passed. Now, 80 got passed. Now, let us say to run this 100 test cases, right, it is taking around 3 hours of time. Now, 80 got passed. Now, I need to rerun only 20 test cases, right? So, if I need to rerun 20 test cases, right, I need to ensure whenever I am running, right, I am also generating a rerun.txt file. Rerun.txt file, which will note only the failures, which will have the list of only the failures. So if you want to rerun only failures, right, then you need to use npx and you need to use cucumber and -js. This is for running your test cases. And here, right, you need to mention @ and you should run rerun.txt. So it will rerun only the 20 test cases which got failed in your previous run. It is going to rerun only the 20 test cases which got failed in your previous run. Yeah, it means this workshop is completely towards JavaScript. If I need to use Cucumber with JavaScript, right, I need to use CucumberJS library. And you need to write, see here, right, as of now, right, I am not writing any code inside to this particular step definitions. Whenever you see any step definition, right, which I have written as part of code, right, I am just writing console.log. This is like system.out.println statement, that how you use it in Java. I am just writing, but here, right, we need to actually write your playwright code. Then whenever it is executing this step definition, right, it will be executing this particular code that is written here, and it will execute your test using playwright on your application. But right, everything we can't cover it in a single workshop, right? So in this workshop, right, I majorly concentrated that how you are going to do your setup with Cucumber and how you need to install and what features or options that are available in Cucumber and how you need to use that options with Cucumber with JS. Now inside to that particular step definitions, right, if you write your Playwright code, right, then you are able to run your, design your automation scripts using Cucumber with the Playwright. Cucumber with the Playwright. So these all are some important features that you need to remember. They may ask you when you attend any interview, like how do we create a test case in Cucumber, how it will be executed, and how do you run a specific test case, and what are gherkins, what do you mean by feature, what do you mean by scenario, what are tags, when you will use dry run, how do you perform parallel execution, okay, how do you perform parallel execution, and then they may ask you few questions like what do you mean by publish quite, hooks, tagged hooks, and how do you generate different types of reports in Cucumber? How do you perform your execution in parallel? How do you rerun only failed test cases? Only failed test cases in Cucumber. So all these, right, they can ask you in your interview. So that is the reason you need to understand that how you are going to use CucumberJS, with your Playwright to design a behavioral driven framework or feature driven framework. Now here, right, the main advantage is you are actually writing your test cases in simple English. So anyone, even though your product or engineering team or your developer, anyone in your team, right, who can easily understand what you have tested as part of that particular functionality and what use cases or test conditions has been tested as part of that particular functionality. So what I will do here is I will also share you this particular project and I will also share you the document which I have typed. Please practice in the similar way to understand Cucumber features that how it can be used when you're writing with any JS framework like Playwright. So means it's like, see, I tried my best to explain you for a layman. And if there are any sort of questions, right, please you can email me on my email ID so that I can help you with some additional information. So I had already shared you my email ID, skill to automate at the rate of gmail.com in your group. And please make sure to practice in the same way. Then you will get some understanding that how you can use CucumberJS to design a framework when you're trying to automate with any JS automation tool, which can be like a Playwright. One popular framework is nothing but Playwright, right? So let us stick to Playwright only. So if you want to use this CucumberJS with the Playwright, right, this is the basic setup and these are the features that should be enabled to use CucumberJS. Now you need to write your Playwright code inside to that particular step definitions. Then it will execute that particular Playwright code when you're executing this particular Cucumber tests. Then it will execute that from your executing it from your Cucumber tests. So any questions on today's workshop, team? See, that means one main challenging thing that I can tell you is if you know a little bit idea on Playwright, right, you can easily extend this framework to write it as a Playwright test. If you don't have idea, if you have not attended last week workshop, right, then you should only majorly concentrate to practice this CucumberJS. Then if you see any basic Playwright tutorial, right, you will easily understand that how you can write your Playwright code inside to that particular step definitions and you can start building a BDD or feature-driven framework using CucumberJS and Playwright. CucumberJS and Playwright. So we are done with whatever the concepts that I want to list as part of this particular CucumberJS. Please help me if you have any questions. Please help me with those questions in your chat window. Okay, and I will be sharing you this document and as well as the project which I have created in our current session. So please practice in the same way that how I have created it. Anyway, the recording video of this, right? See, please don't ask questions which are not relevant. See, very simple. In my first in the beginning of my session itself, I explained you that why we are using VS Code for it. See, editor does not have any dependency on your code that what you write, whether with Java, JavaScript, Python. If you are very good with Eclipse, right, you can also use Eclipse editor, and if it is supportive with writing JavaScript code, right, you can use it. But as I said, right, in the market, right, whenever you're going to write any JavaScript code, even though your front-end UI developers, right, they actually use VS Code for their development. So the best tool and the best compatible tool for writing this Cucumber with JS is VS Code. Okay, if you want to try that with Eclipse, right, you can try it. Don't ask that questions to me because that is not majorly used in the market. So that is the reason I am saying what we really use as part of our practice, right? That tool I am suggesting you need to use VS Code to practice this. And if you want to try this with Eclipse, right, you can try it. It's like you can try it and you can check whether it is also supported with all those plugins or not. Okay. Any other questions, team? See, and I said you right, I already said you in my first 15 minutes that Java and JavaScript is different. If you want to write your Java code, right, you will use Eclipse. But here we are writing our code using JavaScript. It is not using Java. Both are different. So if you are going to write your code using JavaScript, right, you need to use any editor that is supported with JavaScript. And popular editor that what people use in your real practice is VS Code. You need to start using VS Code if you want to use the perspective that what I have explained in our current workshop. Okay, any other questions? Team? Yeah, data driven. Good question actually. See, very simple. Whenever you are going to pass any parameters, right? See, for example, let us assume that I want to pass some parameters to this particular test case, where I need to pass a user ID, okay, and where I need to pass password as well. Okay, you can directly write that in double quotes. And again, if you scroll a little bit back and if you go back to your login steps and you comment this, or else it will fail, right? So I want to run it. So I am just removing this and I am running my test. So it will automatically give me that missing step. You need to add that missing step with parameters. Okay, now copy this. Again, go back to your login steps and give here that step where it is taking two parameters. What are those two parameters? First parameter is nothing but a user ID value, and the second parameter is nothing but the password value. And you can use the same to print it in your test case. So whatever the value that you are passing from this particular feature, let us say I am passing a user 001 and password 001. And if you are running this test, right, it will execute the code and it is going to pass these parameters from feature file and it will be used as part of your test. Okay, as part of your test. This is one way how you can pass your values. Second way is you can also design a data-driven test. So instead of that, right, so design it as a data-driven test, right, you need to write like this. And you need to write, you need to pass user ID value and as well as the password value, right? So what I am doing is I need to give with this symbol. So it means I can pass multiple parameters. Then I need to give here it as the scenario outline, not scenario. Scenario outline. And I need to give name for that particular scenario outline. Okay, I need to give name for that particular scenario outline. And here, right, I need to write examples. Okay, and I can give like this is like a test data, and I can give some examples that where I am going to pass multiple parameters. Like first parameter is like admin 321, and second parameter, and again, if I want to test the same flow with multiple sets of parameters, like here I am giving 8, and here I am giving it as 132, like 2, 3, and here it is like 3, 4. And here it is like 1, 4. I want to use different credentials. Don't change any code. Only the change will be done here. You need to give your parameter with open and close, greater than and less than and greater than symbol. Now, if you run the same test, right, the same test case will be executed with multiple sets of parameters. And this test is nothing but what we actually call it as data-driven testing. So if you see, right, why it is showing here error, tell me, because here I am using user ID and here also I am using user ID and here I am using password and this is like examples. Okay, and here, right, I need to use these values. This is the user ID which I am using here, password I am using here, and let me again rerun it. Save it, and again I am rerunning it. So it should run with these different credentials. Okay, and if you see, right, see, for each time execution, right, it is taking different credentials and it is executing the same test with multiple sets of credentials. And there are total 4 scenarios got executed because I passed 4 different types of user IDs and passwords. So it means I am testing the same scenario with different data sets. So this is how that we will create data-driven testing in your Cucumber. So this is how that we are going to design data-driven testing in your Cucumber. Okay, it means, see, very simple. Here you need to just write this, and this should be the column name for this, and this should be the column name for this, and you can add any number of sets of data here. So for example, here I have added 4 sets of data. It has executed the same test case for 4 times with using different sets of data. If I write here 8 sets, right, it will execute the same test case with 8 different sets. Or with 8 different sets, and it will execute the same test for 8 times with different sets of data. So if you are going to test a single test case with different sets of data, right, this is called as data-driven testing. So this is called as data-driven testing. Yeah, it is actually very good. Actually, this is very much required. Means normally, right, we can hard code and we can pass test data from feature file, or else we can create that particular test as a data-driven test, where you are going to pass multiple credentials using scenario outline and examples, and where you are going to give your data in your examples. Where you are going to give your data in examples. So this is how that you can pass data from feature file and use that data in your execution and use that data in your execution. So I think so. I covered all major features. Please practice in the same way. I'll share you this project as well. Okay, and if there is anyone who is attending out of our who does not have access, right, they can directly email me. I'll send you this project. You can import it and you can also verify that how you can use these features, how you can use these features as part of your Cucumber JS. So we are already running late by 15 minutes. So if you are good, right, I think so we can wind up session for today. And thank you for bearing me from last 2.5 hours. Yeah, see, again, it again depends. If I say data-driven test means you are going to read this data from external files. So if you have limited data, right, you can give that data in feature file. If you have more than 100 tests, right, then you can give that data in an Excel and you can read that data from Excel and you can use that data as part of your test execution. Okay, in that case, right, we will maintain the data in a file. It can be an Excel sheet or it can be in a CSV file. Okay. If it is limited, right, at least for 10 iterations, right, we can also pass the data from your feature file itself by creating scenario outline and examples. Scenario outline and examples. So if you are good, right, then I think so we can wind up. And please make sure to practice in the similar way how I had shown you small code snippets by enabling it. Then you will understand the context. Okay. So thank you for bearing me for last 1.5 hours. And if there are any questions or anything, right, please reach me on my email ID. And if you want this sample project code or this document, right, please mail me to that particular email ID so that I can send these support to artifacts for your practice. And this video is already recorded and it will be uploaded to your YouTube. So everybody will get that YouTube link. So please go through that recording and follow it, that how I have replicated steps in this particular workshop. If you still have any questions, right, write me an email so that I could respond. It will take around 24 hours for me, but I'll respond that with the appropriate data and support to artifacts. So if you're good, right, then we can wind up session for today. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Done. See, another three answers, right? Another three questions, right? Someone is asking which program should we prepare for Playwright interview. Okay, please email me. I'll send you some list of basic programs which they will ask you regularly as part of your Playwright interview. Okay, and then right, the next one is can we pass data via Excel sheet? Yes, sir. Normally, right, if your data is very huge, for example, if I need to maintain data for 800 cases or 900 cases, then we need to maintain this data in Excel and we need to read it. Okay. So if you are good, right, means I have answered all the three questions which I am pending. I have not seen that in my Q&A session window, so I just showed it. So that is how that we can, also practice it. And interview questions, right? Always Playwright. It is best option to learn is with JavaScript. So Playwright, we can use it with Python, we can use it with Java, we can use it with C#, and we can use it with JavaScript, and you can use it with TypeScript. Majorly, right, in real practice, right, you will see a lot of openings towards Playwright with JavaScript. So it is always better to learn Playwright with JavaScript. And the interview questions, right, I'll share you. Just send me an email. So I'll share you some top interview questions or the programs which are asked as part of your Playwright interviews. Okay, so I am assuming that we are good. And if there are any additional questions, right, you can feel free to feel free to send an email onto my email. So I will reply it with the appropriate answers. So if you're good, right, we can wind up.